You're clones.
What are we?
Oh, man, why do I gotta be the guy who tells the kids there's no Santa Claus? Okay, look, you're, well, you're not like me. I mean, you're human, but you're not real. You're not like a real person, like me. You're clones. You're copies of people out here in the world.
What?
Clones?
What?
Copies? What are you talking about?
Why? Some hag trophy wife needs new skin for a facelift, or one of them gets sick and they need a new heart. They take it from you.
Human Chimera is living among us. It's only science fiction for right now. Chimeric research is a Pandora's box that's obviously from hell that should not be opened. Yesterday, the Senate passed the Endless Frontier Act, a bill that commits nearly $250 billion to promote emerging technologies so that America can keep pace with Chinese innovation.
I have a mother. I remember her.
Yeah, I know.
I grew up on a farm. I have a little dog, and I had a bike.
A bike, right. It was a pink flexi flyer with little tassels on the handlebars, and you rode it up the street to your grandmother's house. You ring the little bell, and she came out and served you cookies on a hot plate.
Yeah.
No. Memory imprints.
Harry! You ever heard of recall?
Recall?
You know where they sell those fake memories.
Oh, recall! You thinking of going there?
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, don't.
Why not?
A friend of mine tried one of their special offers. Nearly got himself lobotomized.
No shit.
Don't fuck with your brain, pal. It ain't worth it.
A lot of hard work by the Commerce Committee to pass out the Endless Frontier bill. So clearly what makes us different than other nations is that we are willing to put significant American tax dollars on the table to ensure that national investments in research and science and the development of our ecosystem takes place.
What?
Clones?
What?
Copies? What are you talking
Why?
about?
Some hag trophy wife needs new skin for a facelift, or one of them gets sick and they need a new heart. They take it from you.
Let's clean that drip.
What's his blood pressure?
BP 138/92.
Easy, don't damage it!
Until the quality is high. And the quality won't be high until, and...
Continue.
Okay. It presents a bit of a problem. What would...
Richard? Everything okay?
I don't know. Is it?
Oh, sorry. Guys. Bryce. Guys.
Is Bryce your assistant?
No, of course not. He's my transfusion associate.
Which is?
Are you really not familiar with parabiosis?
Can't say that I am.
Regular transfusions of the blood of a younger, physically fit donor can significantly retard the aging process. And Bryce is a picture of health. Just look at him. He looks like a Nazi propaganda poster.
Oh.
I know you've thought a lot about the extension of human life, and you think that you may live to 120.
I certainly hope to, yes. I'm investing in a lot of biotechnology companies, but I think you actually will need new technology, new innovation for us to really have both longer and healthier lives. We need to find cures for cancer, cures for Alzheimer's. We need to figure out ways to restore organs when they're falling apart. You can go through all the different ways people's bodies break down. We need to figure out ways to reverse all of them. The main drastic thing that I'm doing is I'm on HGH, the human growth hormone stuff.
On a daily basis?
On a daily basis.
Really?
And I think...
What is the benefit of that supposed to be?
It helps maintain muscle mass, so you're much less likely to to get like bone injuries, arthritis, stuff like that as you get older.
Would you eat this? It's meat, but I guarantee you it's like no meat you've ever seen before. That's because this stuff was grown from cells in a lab.
Clean meat is meat grown by cell culture rather than grown by an animal.
Lab-grown or clean meat is slaughter-free and potentially more eco-friendly because it uses less land, water, and energy. At least, that's the promise. Okay, we know what you're thinking.
That's nasty.
Ugh, doesn't sound right.
I'm not really into, lab-made things. It's unnatural.
But if the scientists growing this stuff can overcome the ick factor, clean meat could help feed our growing population in more ethical and sustainable ways.
And so now it's time for my cooking. What do you think?
It's quite good. I mean, that's light years away from what they used to make.
Like the traditional veggie burger?
Right. You know, the quality's going to keep getting better.
The Senate should reverse the Trump-era rule this week. The Endless Frontiers Act will form the core of what will be a comprehensive bill to boost America's ability to compete, innovate, and win to the technologies of the 21st century. So this comprehensive bill will boost funding for basic scientific research, tech development, and manufacturing. It'll strengthen our alliances and partnerships abroad, and will ensure that we hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable for its predatory economic practices.
Every day, 22 people in the U.S. die waiting for an organ transplant. There are currently 118,000 people on the list, and it grows every year. Scientists at the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, think they might have the solution: growing human organs inside genetically altered pigs.
The life science industry has remained resilient to the economic shocks of the pandemic, partly because so many companies are developing life-saving therapeutic solutions to COVID-19. The first is the Endless Frontiers Act, a bipartisan bill that would commit over $100 billion in the next 5 years towards scientific research and technology development. It focuses on the kind of pure research.
In a lab at the Salk Institute, a scientist sucks human stem cells into a tube. Another injects them into a pig embryo. And at that moment, a cross-species embryo, a chimera, both human and pig, begins. And now, finally, their chimera has begun to grow.
So these are pig embryos that may or may not have human elements.
Yeah, may or may not. We don't know yet. We need to analyze it.
The human stem cells grow inside the pig embryo. After 4 weeks, the scientists euthanize the chimera. The goal is eventually, the embryos will grow into a pig, with a human organ ready for harvest. Before trying to grow human parts in pigs, the Salk scientists proved this could work with rats and mice. 4 years ago, they started to turn off the genetic code telling an embryonic mouse to grow a pancreas. They then implanted the stem cells of a rat into that embryo. And those rat cells grew a rat pancreas inside the mouse.
How special is it what I'm holding?
Actually, this is adult. Rat and mouse chimera is very, very rare. I think when we talk about chimera, people always think about the lion head, goat body, and serpent tail monster. There are many cultures. The chimeras actually are deities.
No, we haven't had a Christmas in 100 years.
What? No presents for 100 years?
Always winter, never Christmas. It's been a long winter. But you would have loved Narnia in summer.
Getting this type of work funded isn't easy. The National Institute of Health won't fund research in human-non-human hybrids. There is a possibility that these human stem cells could grow into neurons and accidentally create a human mind trapped in a pig.
Father, I must ask a question.
Please.
What am I? I call you father. Yet we are not like you. What are we?
This is it. Human stem cells being injected into a pig's embryo. For the first time, scientists are seeing how our cells grow and interact inside an animal. This pig, the first known chimera. Recent studies have shown how that process can work using gene editing. Scientists would delete a specific piece of an animal's DNA, so its embryo wouldn't be able to grow a heart, for example. Then they'd inject that embryo with human stem cells, which move into the void and grow a human heart.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's in the legislation?
Yes, the Endless Frontier Act is on the floor, and its intention is to make sure that the United States of America leads the world, working with our partners and allies in developing our next generation technologies like quantum computing and artificial intelligence and battery storage.
Back in May, Democrats shot down an important amendment outlawing U.S. participation in research that would create human-animal hybrids, also known as chimeras. China's already doing it, announcing in April that an international team successfully grew human monkey embryos and sustained them for 20 days in a lab.
Bright eyes. Show him. Go ahead, do your trick. Speak. Go on, speak again. There. Can you believe it?
Yes, amusing. A man acting like an ape.
I rise today in strong support of the Endless Frontier Act. I'm pleased to see that Congress is finally taking action to shore up U.S. investment in the research, development, and manufacturing of critical technologies. Because without this kind of intervention, China, in particular, will continue to outpace and outperform us in the global technology race.
And they were fantastic there, but they were able to say, "Oh, you got to leave me here. He'll be dead in 48 hours." I'm like, "Oh." And I thought, "Well, what can I do?" My brother says, "Why don't you look into these adult stem cells?" I'm like, I've heard things about this, You end up with an extra asshole or something. But, by this time informed, and he just said to me, "Well, he's 92. He says, "What the hell you got to lose?" And I said, "No, nothing. Let's go." So I'm up for it.
And so what was his response to this IV treatment?
That he's almost 100 years old. And from pretty bad shape, it was like bee stings. It was like he got a new lease of life, which fixed all his inflammation and pain, and he started walking again. And his kidneys were good, and his heart, he had a prolapsed valves in there, and they healed. And his cognitive powers improved. His eyesight improved.
Whoa.
And other stuff improved that he would hate me to talk about.
I had heard about Dr. Kotaro Yoshimura in Japan, who had successfully regrown the breasts of over 400 Japanese women who had lost their breast to cancer. So I tracked him down. I brought him over here. I hooked him up with a surgeon in the Los Angeles area. They took the fat from my stomach, boo-hoo, and this is in lay speak, in a sophisticated technology like a centrifuge, whipped it around at supersonic speed and extracted my stem cells, again, for a lack of a better term, took a turkey baster and injected into this breast, and poof, wow. And to me, the ramifications of what this can mean for the future uses of stem cells, I think of our enlisted people, and we're not that far away from being able to regrow limbs. And
mostly for my health, for my mortality more than anything. Subconsciously, I think that's what's the reason why I did it, just to be healthy. And then I meet a doctor and say, "Hey, you should do this and you should try stem cell." I'm like, "You never tried stem cell?" But this is what really got me interested in this stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I had the opportunity to talk to Ken Shamrock.
Okay.
And so he came in and I looked at him. I said, "What?" He looked incredible. "What the fuck? Hey, what are you doing right now? Why you look like that? How's that happen?" And he said it was in Colombia. And I said, "Where?" And I'm going tomorrow.
Currently, the National Institutes of Health has banned U.S. funding for chimeric research. And who's to say that these agencies will play by the rules anyway? Remember, President Obama banned funding for gain-of-function research back in 2014.
NIH traditionally provides the fundamental basic research that leads to proofs of concept that would ultimately lead to an intervention, a product, for example, be it a diagnostic, a therapeutic, or in the case of infectious diseases or cancer in a vaccine. Industry generally does not do that fundamental basic research. With few exceptions, they are much more involved in the what we call the downstream aspect of the development of a product.
Now, we just had a good meeting about our ongoing efforts to prepare this country for the H1n1 flu virus this fall. As I said when we saw the first cases of this virus back in the spring, I don't want anybody to be alarmed, but I do want everybody to be prepared. We know that we usually get a second, larger wave of these flu viruses in the fall, and so response plans have been put in place across all levels of government. We're also making steady progress on developing a safe and effective H1n1 flu vaccine, and we expect a flu shot program will begin soon. Our public health officials have recommended that schools with confirmed or suspected cases of this flu strongly consider temporarily closing. This has been a more aggressive Ebola outbreak than we've seen in the past, but keep in mind that it is still affecting parts of 3 countries. The CDC and our various health agencies are going to be working very intently with the World Health Organization, but the key is identifying, quarantining, isolating those who contract it and making sure that practices are in place that avoid transmission.
It is wonderful to be back to America's laboratory, even if I don't always understand what you're doing. But the work you do here is remarkable. And I just got a fascinating tour of your vaccine research center. I have to say I was very impressed with how you can clone a virus gene into a vaccine vector, then subject it to gel electrophoresis, and then pipette the samples into a 96-well microplate, run it through the world's most advanced multi-parameter flow cytometer. I mean, it was impressive. I've been tinkering around the White House setting up a similar system. We use it for brewing beer, but it works well for your work also. Now, the last time I was here at NIH.
But New York AD found a way around it. And they laundered, it's the NIAID group, and they laundered hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Wuhan Institute of Virology through a nonprofit group called the EcoHealth Alliance.
That is a description of viral gain of function research, the exact type of research that the Obama administration stopped. But Fauci didn't stop it. He continued on by subcontracting it to this group, EcoHealth Alliance, based in New York.
46 states reporting widespread activity
as a deadly new virus sweeps through the city.
The World Health Organization declaring a global health emergency.
Once a pandemic emerges, it's really too late. All you can do is put out the fire. We're trying to get ahead of the curve and stop them before they emerge. EcoHealth Alliance is working on the ground to stand between you and the next pandemic. From our offices here in New York, we send our staff all over the world.
It's run by a big name in the field of virus research, Peter Daszak. He's a zoologist who specializes in wildlife diseases. His claim to fame, and it's a big one, is that he was the person who first discovered the bat origin of the SARS pandemic just over a decade ago. Daszak established that the virus came from bats via a civet cat in a Chinese market. Ever since then, Daszak developed a reputation as the Batman. He and his team would literally go to remote jungle caves to collect bat samples for scientific research. The project that Fauci commissioned gave EcoHealth Alliance more than $3 million over the course of 6 years, despite the Obama administration's ban. And here we come to the crucial step, which has never before been reported. Peter Daszak himself subcontracted a key piece of the Fauci project. the gain-of-function piece. He gave that to a well-known center of expertise in gain-of-function virus research, which specialized in bat coronaviruses. Yep, he gave it to the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
In order to create the SARS-CoV-2 sensitive mice, the scientists created a two-step concept to follow. The mice have to be both biologically safe for lab practice and efficient for non-clinical trials. The researchers have to accomplish the latter by ensuring that the mice can experience symptoms and pathogenesis almost exactly like humans. According to the group, they predict that their study will yield results by June, considering that they have all that they need to carry out their experiment. The researchers wrote the key difference between a new model and the existing ones will be its biological safety. Animals will become sensitive to SARS-CoV-2 only after activation in conditions of a virological laboratory.
Organs, bones, and other body parts of aborted babies are being sold and transplanted into lab animals. No, this is not a passage out of Frankenstein. These are real experiments happening now that taxpayers are funding. Last year, the National Institutes of Health funded 200 similar studies across 50 institutions, mostly universities, in 33 states. This year, the NIH estimates it will spend $120 million tax dollars on research using aborted baby parts.
But this is a crisis now. This problem is growing in spite of Republicans, Democrats, pro-lifers, animal advocates. Nobody wants this.
China has no rules. 20 years ago, they had cows that produced human milk.
But this dairy in Beijing isn't quite what it seems. These cows have all been genetically modified, and this is human breast milk. The Chinese scientists responsible successfully inserted the human breast milk gene into a cow embryo and then implanted it into a surrogate. The result is a transgenic herd of 300, and milk the scientists claim is healthier than the bovine variety. The human breast milk produced by the cows is antibacterial and helps boost the immune system. With government approval, it could be on supermarket shelves within 3 years.
That breast milk?
What?
Is that breast milk?
Why would that be breast milk?
Because this is. You ever suck a pregnant woman titty? Oh my God, this is so good. Come on, try some.
No.
Listen, you take this, you put it in there, and you got the real HGH.
No.
I'm talking about a steroid shake, man. You're already big, but you could be bigger.
20 years ago, they had spiders that produced body armor, spider goats.
And these are your spider goats?
These are the spider goats.
And so these kids have the genes for a spider in them?
Yes.
And where does the spider silk actually come from? I mean, where do you get it?
Well, it was designed so it comes in the milk. Hey, Freckles, come here.
So the pump's just going like that?
That's all there is to it. All right, so she's about done. We can look at this open and you can take a look and see. If you actually do an analysis of it and you look at all the components of the milk, the only thing you'll find is different is that there's one extra protein in there, and that's our spider silk protein. All the rest of it looks absolutely like normal goat's milk.
You want some? We can be titty brothers. Yeah.
No.
They have human-animal hybrids 30 years ago.
In China, researchers engineered part pig, part monkey creatures. They did this by injecting monkey stem cells into thousands of fertilized pig embryos, which they then implanted into surrogate sows. The pigs bore 10 piglets, only 2 of which grew both pig and monkey cells. These cells turned up in a number of the piglets' organs, such as in their hearts and livers.
China has made pig-monkey hybrids.
God, China.
Yeah, and they've successfully made these pig-monkey hybrids, and
what do they look like?
They didn't show. They showed a picture of a pig fetus. I'm pretty sure it was just a regular pig fetus. They want to get to a point. Was it pig human or pig monkey? I think it was pig monkey. Pig monkey.
I think you tweeted was pig monkey.
Is that what we are? Are we pig monkeys?
But I think what they're trying to do is develop.
Dr. Zayas, I could swear he's answering you.
He has a definite gift for mimicry.
It's most unusual. He's using that old blanket as clothing.
In a lab at the Salk Institute, a scientist sucks human stem cells into a tube. Another injects them into a pig embryo. And at that moment, a cross-species embryo, a chimera, both human and pig, begins.
Organ farm, organ animal farm. Yeah, it's like a dream, but a science fiction dream. But I hope that will happen, so that I can save many patients with end-stage organ failure. Of course, we have to ask for human stem cell oversight committee. Mostly, it depends on the institute and also the state. But in Japan, it's a national rule. So it may not be a good idea to ignore that guideline and do the experiment.
Wait a minute. We're saying so many things. Listen, I love you to death, but you say so many different things without stopping.
Joe, it was in MIT Quarterly 25 years ago that they had human animal embryos, but they killed them at the embryonic level. You can pull it up. Let's expand.
Serious ethical issues are being raised after it emerged that US and Chinese scientists have implanted human cells into monkey embryos. The aim of the research is to understand more about how cells develop and to help research in cultivating organs for transplant.
They have already used CRISPR to enhance children.
The doctor who sparked global outrage by claiming to produce the world's first genetically modified babies faced his peers for the first time at this conference in Hong Kong.
I feel proud, actually. I feel proudest. As you can see, there's a big demand to know exactly what you did.
How you understand your responsibility to these children.
Shenzhen-based H1n1 used a gene editing technology called CRISPR to engineer twin girls whose DNA was designed to resist the HIV infection.
The world has moved on to the stage for embryo gene editing. There will be someone somewhere who's doing this. If it's not me, it's someone else.
What? Clones?
What?
Copies? What are you talking about?
Some hag trophy wife needs new skin for a facelift, or one of them gets sick and they need a new heart. They take it from you.
It's called gene editing. It's altering DNA, and it's one of the things that our intelligence shows that China is doing. They've got the PRC, the People's Republic of China, has 2 million strong in its military, and it's trying to make them stronger through gene editing. And that's just one of the ways that China is trying to essentially dominate the planet.
The fact that they're trying to use gene editing tools to change the nature of human beings is not surprising, because this is who they really are. And we had that similar experience, did we not, with Nazism and that authoritarian regime trying to conduct human experiments to do the very same thing.
The prosecution's case relating to those crimes in the name of medical or scientific research. The charges with respect to euthanasia and the slaughter of tubercular Poles, they have no relation to research or experimentation. The sterilization experiments were, it is clear, purely destructive in their purpose. And the prisoners of Buchenwald, who were shot with poison bullets, were not guinea pigs to test an antidote for the poison. Their murderers really wanted to know how quickly the poison would kill.
50 years ago, at a railroad siding at a killing field called Auschwitz, a German SS officer named Dr. Joseph Mengele, and among those children were twins who were spared the gas chambers only to become fodder for Mengele's medical laboratory. Some he castrated or sterilized. Others had limbs amputated or dye injected into their eyes to see if they would turn blue, all in an effort to produce in a laboratory a master race.
After a visit to the lab, and I was taken to a barrack that was filled with practically living dead. Mengele came in every morning and he declared, very sarcastically laughing, "Too bad, she's so young. She has only 2 weeks to live."
Right in front of you.
Right in front of me.
To Mengele, the twins were just tattooed lab specimens. Eva Moses and her twin sister Miriam, no names, just numbers, 7063 and 7064.
Test subject A402.
Test subject displayed no detectable responses to psychological stimuli. Necrotic plasma and brain fluid are being drawn for further testing. Results to be compared to tests performed during and immediately following reanimation. Again, this is test subject A402. Known in life as Dr. Samuel Abbott of Portland, Oregon. Test subject A402.
In front of China's consulate, practitioners of Falun Gong accuse the Chinese government of forcibly harvesting the organs of the spiritual group's prisoners. Zheng Zheng speaks about her experience after her arrest.
On the day while we were transferred from the detention center to the labor camp, the person we saw, to our surprise, was not the police guard, but a doctor. We were first taken to an unknown place where a doctor was waiting for us and to integrate us about our medical history.
The majority of the organs are all coming from Falun Gong practitioners.
I have seen at least 3 children had a scar on their body, indicates the organ had been stolen. And in 1995, it comes to my turn to do it. It was a Wednesday, 9:30 next day, we met at the hospital gate and headed towards the Western Mountain execution ground. After gunshots were heard, we rushed in, where I can see a civilian-clothed man lying on the ground with a single bullet wound to his right chest. My chief surgeons then ordered and guided me, extracted the liver and 2 kidneys. The man was alive. He tried to resist my scalpel cut, but too weak to avoid my action. But I didn't feel guilty. In fact, I didn't feel anything but like a full programmed robot doing its task. I thought I was carrying my duty to eliminate the enemy of the state.
2009, he has a liver transplant.
Yeah, by early 2009, he is wasting away. And he really realizes that he has maybe 3 or 4 months before the liver will give out totally. And his wife, and she realizes that in California, he's not going to make it. He's not going to get a liver by May or June. But one thing you can do is you can list in different states. And he's able by May or June to get near the top of the list in Tennessee.
I mean, it was sort of a secret liver transplant.
Yeah, secrecy served him well in a way. He would keep new products secret and suddenly there'd be these great launch events.
As some of you may know, about 5 months ago, I had a liver transplant. So I now have the liver of a mid-20s person who died in a car crash and was generous enough to donate their organs. And I wouldn't be here without such generosity. So thank you guys. Let's give them a round of applause.
And so when I was finished with True Lies, I remember the doctor that physical said, you know, the time is coming up where I see your heart, the performance going down, that you need soon a valve replacement. I went into the hospital and got the valve replacement, got both valves replaced, the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve.
Congratulations to the class of 2020. But I'm not going to stand here and about this being a fantastic time to graduate. And I know that virtual graduations aren't the celebration that you envisioned. But the world is in a crisis. This coronavirus is unbelievable. But no matter how much damage this coronavirus does around the globe, I mean, let me just tell you a brief story about the biggest obstacle that I faced. I woke up 16 hours later instead of 4 hours. So then he told me that they had to do an emergency surgery, that something went wrong during this kind of non-invasive procedure, and then it became very invasive. They said that they broke through the heart wall and there was internal bleeding and I could have died. Now all of a sudden I had to go and make myself get out of the bed and start walking with that walker. I did the first 10 steps like an old man. Now the reason why I'm telling you all this is because no matter how successful you are, life will throw obstacles in your path. Like it was with my heart surgery, or like with your graduation now.
So you're saying they're making these human-animal hybrids so they could, harvest tissue from them?
That's just level 1.
What's level 2?
A lot of people think, oh, it's human harvesting of Falun Gong or these Buddhists really healthy. That's big, that's going on. because they still have a better non-rejection rate. But with the chimeras, I remember 22 years ago reading a BBC article that was kind of testing the waters. They occasionally test it. And they go, oh, yeah, about 15 years ago, the first animal-human chimeras were made in test tubes. They were not brought to term. But some scientists want to implant them in utero in cows because obviously that's a bigger uterus. You can grow up a bigger humanoid and get more tissue. And so then I went, I better go research that. And I went and actually pulled up all these MIT reports. And it was all about how we've got to prepare the public for this because we're going to be able to download their memories and then put it in a new body. This is before Blade Runner.
Every civilization was built off the back of a disposable workforce, but I can only make so many. Happy birthday.
The world is built on a wall that separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall. You bought a war.
What do you want? I want to ask you some questions.
Imagine a machine with a full range of human emotion. Its analytical power will be greater than the collective intelligence of every person. Some scientists refer to this as the singularity. Professor? I call it transcendence.
Will's body is dying, but his mind is a pattern of electrical signals. We can upload his consciousness. We can save him.
Evelyn.
Whoa, my God.
I can't feel anything.
You
need to get me online. I need more power.
It may be intelligent, it may even be sentient. This is not well.
Shut it down. Shut it down. It's him.
Wake up, Mommy. Mommy, please.
Just a temporary body, Mommy. I'll make you a new one.
Response normal. How you feeling, Jake?
Hey guys. Welcome to your new body, Jake.
Good, fine.
Okay, good. Just take it nice and slow, Jake. Good. Okay, well, no truncal ataxia. That's good.
Are you feeling lightheaded or dizzy at all? Are you wiggling your...
Some stories start at the beginning. Ours begins here.
What the?
No one knew which came first. The hybrids or the virus. This is a story about a very special boy. A boy we come to know as Sweet Tooth.
So see, it's not like this is the world's not imitating Blade Runner. Blade Runner is a preparation for what's coming. And they're telling you, more human than human. This is going to be more advanced. This is going to be better. But like everything, like a cell phone or like a vaccine, it's got a Trojan horse. It's got a back door. It's already been tested. It's already been perfected. It's being rolled out. You're not given the real technology. You're not given the real life extension. You're given the crap, Joe.
And the answer is that until we get near to zero, the temperature will continue to rise. And somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to zero. This equation has four factors. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Hello, useless eaters. As your unqualified, non-elected global human health overlord, when I amassed my fortune in computer software, I demonstrated that I was willing to lie, steal code, cheat my partners, and exercise monopolistic control to destroy my competitors. Now that I've retired, I can rebrand myself as a humanitarian. With my for-profit foundation masquerading as a charity, I can advocate for population reduction and sponsor mass human experiments with unproven vaccines in vulnerable populations. Like my father, a powerful banker, eugenicist, and Rockefeller crony himself, it's always been my ambition to decide who lives and, more importantly, how many have to die. Whether it's under the guise of climate change or world health, it's really all about controlling and culling the human herd for fun and profit.
In this year's annual letter, Melinda and I take the toughest questions we get asked and give our answers. One that's come up for a long time is, as we make the world healthier, is the population going to get so big that feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible. So Melinda and I wondered whether providing new medicines and keeping children alive, would that create more of a population problem? What we found out is that as health improves, families choose to have less children. If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a war. And we were the best at funding vaccine research.
Has the speed of the development of the vaccine surprised you?
Dr. Fauci and I knew that there was a possibility that in 12 months we would have the vaccines.
It began in healthy-looking pigs. A new coronavirus spread silently within her. Farmers started getting sick. Symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. Many died. Unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic and affects people everywhere.
It is not over. All we've done, which is a significant step, we have shown that we can stop the spread of the virus, right? We were looking at those lines that were continuing to go up, and there was a big question, can you stop the spread of this beast? And we have done that. You closed everything down, and it worked. And the quote-unquote plateau is a flattening of the increase. It's not a decline. It's just a flattening of the increase.
We need to bend the curve in the state of California. And in order to do that, we need to recognize the reality.
The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
What could cause an excess in a single year of 10 million deaths? Now, clearly a big war could, and a pandemic, natural or created by bioterror.
What we've seen work very well in the HIV field is, in fact, procurement through the Global Fund. So having a centralized mechanism, so financially able to procure on behalf of affected countries would be critical.
A global stockpile would certainly help ensure more rational and strategic allocation, but the reality is that we don't have the logistics capability, even within the UN, to bring that together in one place and run it. So
no one had ever made an mRNA vaccine. Now, those vaccines aren't perfect. They're more expensive than we'd like, they're less thermostable, and they're harder to scale up. So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
The advantages of the technology stem from the microfluidic chamber, which enables rapid mixing under laminar conditions. As the fluids mix, on first contact, the cationic lipids complex with the negatively charged nucleic acid to form the beginnings of the particle core. The helper lipids aggregate further as they come into contact with the aqueous solution. Finally, the PEG lipids orient themselves on the surface with hydrophobic tails pointing inwards. This process creates uniform particles and is highly reproducible.
But there's a big question lingering over the process. How do we balance safety with speed? Because of the urgency of the pandemic, the White House has launched Operation Warp Speed, which provides funding and other assistance to help companies speed up the development and distribution process. Biotech company Moderna, as well as Pfizer, which partnered with the German biotech company BioNTech, have been working on what's called an mRNA delivery approach to a vaccine. Traditional immunization methods involve injecting a dead or weakened form of a virus into the body. This triggers the immune system to create proteins called antibodies, which protect a person in the event a live virus gets into their system. The mRNA vaccine approach doesn't require injecting a virus into the patient in order to create those antibodies. Messenger ribonucleic acid, or mRNA, are molecules that exist within the body that transport instructions to the part of the cell that creates proteins. Once those programmed strands of mRNA are introduced, the body's natural process of creating proteins takes over, and it reproduces the antibodies without needing the weakened virus present in a person's system. This new approach to a vaccine has never been approved by any world regulatory body. There are some advantages to the mRNA approach. Because the vaccine doesn't contain a virus, the participant can't get infected by the vaccine, which is a risk for traditional immunization methods.
On to a medical story that has created some amount of a public health panic in India after traces of a polio virus, a particular strain that is known to have been eradicated from India, were found in some batches of an oral polio vaccine. This was manufactured by a company based in Ghaziabad, Biomed Private Limited. Now, Biomed is a major contributor of a polio vaccine and supplies polio vaccines for the government-run immunization program. So, a probe has now been ordered after this virus was found in the vaccine.
The mRNA vaccine would also be easier to manufacture. Traditional vaccines that use a dead or weakened form of the virus must be grown inside live cells. The most common way for the flu vaccine to be manufactured at scale is to grow the vaccine's viruses within fertilized hen eggs. Those eggs are incubated for several days to allow the viruses to replicate. The viruses are then killed, purified, and go through extensive quality testing before distribution.
As far as the little fragment of DNA in question, or the fragment of RNA, they produce the same proteins. So the target is the same. The virus is wrapped, the SARS-CoV-2 virus is wrapped in spike proteins, and the idea is to give those spike proteins to the immune system so that it recognizes them immediately if you ever get infected. And from that point of view, the vaccines that are currently available are equivalent.
You're not worried if it was made in the lab that it would be different? That a vaccine would be different, made from that came from a lab instead of nature itself?
All of our best tricks we are borrowing from nature. And in this case, we are just simply taking that spike protein and figuring out how to get it into your cells so that your immune system gets a chance to see it.
Let's assume that the Chinese were not trying to create a bioweapon. It's possible that they were. If they were, they did a hell of a job because they shut down the world. But let's assume they were just studying this. But it got out. Maybe like on a worker's, it's like when the busboy doesn't wash his hands before he goes to the bathroom and, then you get food poisoning. It raises the question, should we ever be studying viruses in labs this way? If we're just going to create the problem that we're trying to...
Well, that battle was taking place before the COVID-19 epidemic. There were two factions. There was a faction that said we had no choice but to study these viruses and, in fact, to engage in what's called gain-of-function research, where we turbocharge the viruses and make them much more dangerous than they are in the condition we find them. And the argument was that we had to do that in order to know what they would be like in their dangerous form and could perhaps prepare by generating a vaccine. And then there was another faction that said, actually, we're likely to create exactly the disaster we fear. And what was missing from this discussion was a proper evolutionary analysis. Now, the fact is, there are lots of viruses that can escape from nature and infect people.
You say the next pandemic, there will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when. The risk per year, 2%, 3%.
Why are you so sure there will be another one?
Well, you roll the dice every year. Eventually the dice don't favor you.
You are incredibly rational and believe in science. We are now in an age where there is intense mistrust of science. How does one battle that?
Well, we have to make the truth more interesting than the oversimplistic conspiracy.
How do you do that?
There may be some need to slow down the crazy stuff.
Dishonest cries of censorship are filling Fox's airwaves with charges that these guys right here are being suppressed. The vast majority of people can agree that disinformation about, let's say, the pandemic is unhealthy. It's harmful. Well, big tech platforms say they are removing lies about vaccines and stamping out Stop the Steal BS and QAnon cult content. But reducing a liar's reach is not the same as censoring freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is different than freedom of reach.
There's this new social media app called Parler getting a lot of attention because conservatives are saying they're leaving Twitter and Facebook, going off to Parler because they believe Parler's a safer space for them. What we're seeing is even more of a bunker mentality in right-wing media, and ultimately that's not good for the country.
No, it's not good. It's a threat to democracy, that these people are in echo chambers and they're getting fed a diet of lies, essentially.
Can I just put that over there? It's okay to not be okay right now. That's the main thing I want to say to everyone watching. It wasn't until this Friday night that I hit a wall. I was supposed to be finishing my nightly newsletter that I mentioned earlier, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it done, and that's when the tears came. I mean, yeah, there were some messages from guys trying to do that performative masculinity thing, saying men shouldn't cry or talk about crying.
Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
You don't think inserting
China.
a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
We do not send money now to the Wuhan Virology
Do you support
Institute.
sending money? We did under your tutelage. We were sending it through EcoHealth. It was a sub-agency and a sub-grant. Do you support that the money from NIH that was going to the Wuhan Institute?
Let me explain to you why that was done. The SARS-CoV-1 originated in bats in China.
From Dr. Anthony Fauci, who basically just admitted why and how the government lied to us about the efficacy of wearing masks. Let's take a listen as he explains the real reason they told us not to do that.
When people were saying, you don't really need to wear a mask. Well, the reason for that is that we were concerned, the public health community, and many people were saying this, were concerned that it was at a time when personal protective equipment, including the N95 masks and the surgical masks, were in very short supply. And we wanted to make sure that the people, namely the healthcare workers, we did not want them to be without the equipment that they needed.
It is just hard.
A lot on live television.
Yeah. The Surgeon General and the U.S. government were saying, don't wear a mask, not because we need these critical supplies for our frontline healthcare work. No, there was a whole elaborate rationales and many articles written about how masks didn't really work, so don't buy masks, don't wear masks. In fact, they may make things worse, but also, oh, by the way, our healthcare professionals are definitely going to be wearing them.
Well, did you read the Fauci emails?
Yes.
The Freedom of Information emails? That's really crazy because first of all, he's admitting in these emails that masks don't work. He's also, these are private emails. He's saying masks don't work. He's talking about gain of function research in the Wuhan lab, and he's concerned about it and thinking whether or not they had paused that and whether they're still doing that. And he's trying to connect the gain of function research in the Wuhan lab with this COVID breakout and whether or not that's where it came from.
Right.
And
why is that a big deal?
Because they funded it.
So let me ask you, do you agree with what Rand Paul just said in terms of the possible cover-up by the NIH?
Look, it's a matter of public record
that the NIH spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in these Wuhan labs, and the Wuhan labs were doing gain-of-function research to make coronaviruses more contagious and more dangerous. So they need to come clean with the American people.
Global pandemic, you're coming in, you're asking, we're going to shut down the earth. You were going to shut down any discussion about certain aspects of this. Like, you shouldn't, if you question it, we're just going to lose your social media account, which is something very necessary for very many people, obviously. And now to be like, oh yeah, maybe we were wrong. It's just like, that's an enormous amount of power for people to have, and to assume that this power is being used reasonably or objectively has been demonstrated to be false.
Science has in many ways helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
Well, what do you mean by there was a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance? My
if
God!
There was evidence, I'd love to hear it. I just don't know.
The disease is the same name as the lab. So wait a minute. You work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. The name of your lab. If you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan.
So there is a need for innovation to think about how you draw these lines, and particularly when you're getting out, exposing to strangers something that might draw them into a series of falsehoods.
And the Earth is seen as like an egg yolk to give the propulsion power for this new thing that's going to be born. It's a fusion of artificial intelligence and a whole synthesis of new life forms.
He got wind of us. Don't move. Don't move.
We'd like to get an outcome on a significant infrastructure package. And what we've already recommended on a bipartisan basis out of one of the Senate committees just this week is more than we've ever done over a multi-year infrastructure bill. So we're open to spending.
And so that's the big giant race when Elon Musk came in and told you, because he goes to these billionaire functions and he has a conscience, so he's freaked out.
With you, where you decided, or you took on a more fatalistic attitude? Like, what was there any specific thing, or was it just the inevitability of our future?
I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
This seems like a scene in a movie where the robots are going to fucking take over and you're freaking me out. Nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
No one.
Wired magazine 20-something years ago, Why the Future Doesn't Need Us, Bill Joy, a billionaire, co-owner of Sun Microsystems. He goes to a billionaire meeting with 200 guys, and the consensus was, we're not going to let people play video games and party all day. We're going to set up a world government. We're going to slowly titrate the dose and poison the public, dumb them down, put electromagnetic radiation out with 5G that scrambles their DNA, lowers their IQ. We're going to cause mass mental illness and a controlled societal collapse that'll then be organized and controlled in the mop-up crew by robots, controlled by the globalist programmers who believe with the off-world entities they're in communication with that they're going to be given the operation to upload and be in that larger kind of Borg cube system.
Okay, hit the brakes.
If they sell the country out.
You got to hit the brakes, because we take this back to, I'm so baffled. MIT Technology Review estimates that about 20 pregnancies of pig-human or sheep-human chimeras have been established during the last 12 months in the U.S. Look, I think that
this was going on in 1985.
I'm sure.
They tried to recruit my dad to a DARPA program.
I believe that.
In college, and then when he was a dentist.
I believe that.
God, I'm back. I'm home. All the time it was, you maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
You're anonymous. We are legion. United as one. Divided by zero. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
No expression. Hide my head. I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow. No tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny. I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world. Large and open. Mad